Welcome to Collingswood Listens. I'm your host, Grace Hopper, and we're here today with special guest, Mayor Jim Maley. Hi, Mayor Maley. How are you?
I'm just great, Grace. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks so much for coming on our show. We were so excited to feature you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I would love to jump in with you and just learn a little bit more about maybe what we didn't get to learn about in the editorial and kind of start with where you grew up. It's to my understanding you're from Northeast Philadelphia.
Yeah, Northeast Philly, kind of up near Frankfurt and Cottman, and lived there. Actually, we lived in one part or another of Northeast Philly until we moved to Collingswood in 1982.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. And you met your wife in a theatrical performance.
We met in high school show at her high school at St. Hubert's. It was Oklahoma. Our characters in the show got married.
Wow.
And then we were in a show together at my school at Father Judge, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And our characters in that show got married. And then the third time has stuck for a long time. Don't ask her, but it's been stuck for a long time.
So when you were in the show and you got to know each other, did you just say, let's go out and grab coffee? Like how did it progress?
I asked her out for a date. Remember now we're 16, 17 years old, so we didn't really go out for cups of coffee.
I guess
then.
not.
Yeah. I had to ask a few times. She was not all that interested, and finally got her to go to a football game, go to a high school football game with me.
Okay. So in 1987, when you moved to Collingswood, how old were you and your wife?
So it's 82 when we moved.
82.
Okay. All right. 82. So we were 25, 57. I don't know. Do the math. 57, 25, 26, something like that.
Okay. And what brought you to town?
Well, we were looking at South Jersey to get a house, and we were looking all over. We were looking at Haddonfield for a while. We still think what sold us on the house in Collingswood was it was a big old house. It was the 4th of July weekend when we looked at it, and it was air conditioned.
Okay.
And so when we walked into it, it looked better than any of the other houses we had been in. But we loved the neighborhood. We were really drawn to it. A lot of old walnut everywhere in the house. We really loved it, and we actually signed a contract that fell through, and then we redid it. And then the other tidbit on our house, right, is we bought it from the mayor. Mike Brennan was living in the house with his family, and he was just moving around the corner. So the first guy I met when I moved into town was the mayor.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get your initial start into local politics?
Well, I was always involved in Philly, but when you're in a big city, like you can get involved in like the local committee or the ward politics, and you're dealing kind of with your neighborhood.
Right.
And when I moved here, first guy I meet is the mayor, and told him like I'm interested, would like to get involved. And small town, when you say you'd like to get involved, like you are involved.
Right.
And so I started, we had back then Haddon Avenue was a wreck, and we had this little Haddon Avenue revitalization committee that I started doing work on, that volunteer work with them, and volunteer for a lot of different things. And then also coaching all the kids' sports and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah. So when I think of you as the mayor and I think of other mayors, I, in my brain, put you in such a separate category because you've been the mayor for over 2 decades. Yeah. So I feel like it resonates a little bit different. And I guess that leads me to my next question, being that you've been the mayor for over 20 years and Collingswood's such a small town. What has it been like to raise a family and live in Collingswood and have been the mayor for this long and just lead such a life as such a public figure? What is that like for you?
So it's good and bad. The positives are that if you see things that aren't great, and your family is your like first line of ambassadorships, people that tell you what's going on. So you're able to try and get things fixed, to do things. The rough part is that, and it wasn't as bad back then. I talk about like it's ancient history, but like it's not that long ago.
Right.
And it wasn't as bad as like with social media world today as it would be on your family. but it's definitely harder on them. Things that, way people don't like certain things going on will affect the way they treat your wife, your kids.
Right.
Collingswood was pretty good though. Was pretty good, but it wasn't perfect.
But
But it was
luckily,
pretty
your
good.
children are grown before probably social media really started to get. It's not like you're raising them in the digital era of 2023, where now everything is just kind of everyone's vomiting online. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't a thing when your
No,
children.
it was not a thing. And it's not so much that we go after the kids. It's just that the hardest thing for your family is to watch others beat the living daylights out of you.
Right.
Like that's the part that is hardest for them to do this, and especially to do it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even focus to do it today. You need skin that is like a foot thick,
I would imagine.
because you just. I always joke that we listen to everybody, and then you also have to have the talent to not listen to everybody, so it can be tough, but it's been good for us. I mean, it's all been the kids loved it. There's little things they got exposed to that they wouldn't have ordinarily, and I think they it's all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure at this point you're such a veteran in the game that, the noise is something that's easily turned down. I mean, you're probably at this point like kind of tone deaf to like all of the negativity that might ever.
Yeah, most of it. Our last campaign for office in May of 21, right, was by far the nastiest, most personal, saying stuff about me personally that was just off the charts, okay? And it didn't work, but when you're going through it, you never know if it is or not, right? You never know if for us for elections, you got you have basically a referendum on it,
Right.
in beyond that for just people, you never get that referendum. You just have
Right.
people saying bad things.
Right.
So for us, it was a great relief that they said all those bad things and it didn't work.
Right.
And so it has helped quiet all that.
Right.
And because they know it's,
Noise.
it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, they used it to try to get votes, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
So yeah, you get. I mean,
Yeah.
you develop a certain attitude of you want to hear what people have to say, you want to hear the
Sure.
thoughts, but then after a certain point, it's like, okay, fine, we
Right.
don't agree. That's okay. That's
Right.
fine.
Right. Collingswood obviously is somewhat of the model town for the other towns. When I'm in South Jersey, people come to me and they're like, we're really working hard to look and be like Collingswood. With that being said, what would you say as the mayor of why Collingswood is the model for these other towns? What is Collingswood doing differently?
Well, that's really nice for you to say that. It is. We have always we've always thought outside the box. We've also always been very aggressive in trying to fix things and trying to one way or the other figure out a way to go fix it. It is. I think that's really what our hallmark is. It kind of doesn't matter what the situation is. We haven't been limited by what's been done in the past, and we go and do things that some people think are a little risky, that are don't pay off dividends, don't work immediately, and we've invested in ourselves. Like we haven't been bashful about on projects we think that are important, investing in it ourselves. And so it's really just a function of being aggressive and smart. The people of Collingswood have been very supportive of those efforts.
Right.
I go back to Parkview when we did the Parkview back in '96. That was really the big obstacle that everyone viewed. It was perceived as being the end of us. It was half empty. It was in the news all the time. And when we got through that and we're very aggressive in a way to try to fix it, people just bought in. It changes the perception. If people that have lived here the longest were the most resistant to change. Okay.
Makes
because
sense.
because it's just the way we are.
Right.
It's just the way. I used to get stuff from people saying, we're not Haddonfield. Why are we doing this? We're just not that.
Yeah.
And we used to tell them well, no, we're going to be cooler than Haddonfield. It's going to be different.
Right.
There's going to be change. But once that happened, Parkview, then people began to believe that things were going to be better.
Right.
And once they believe that, your work's done.
Right.
Now you're on cruise control.
Right. Wow. What advice would you give to your younger self or someone newly elected mayor? Just looking back over your time in office, like what are some things that maybe you would have done?
There's not a lot I would have changed. Like I really, I thought we were appropriately aggressive. We backed off on things that we didn't think would work. I would try to find a way to get more hours in the day because there's just a ton of stuff that goes on. Early days, I was probably less tolerant of the people that were constantly on my case for, and I would have given up trying to convince them, okay? Because certain people just aren't going to like me,
Right.
and that's it. And now I'm much easier to accept that because I just don't care.
Right, you're seasoned.
Yeah, but in the early days, like you really do. And if people are giving you a hard time, you think that you're going to be able to convince them.
Right.
And sometimes it just doesn't work. So I think I would have been a little, kind of gotten my skin a little thicker a little sooner.
Right. Makes sense. What would be your suggestion for a resident or any of our listeners who want to get their feet wet with community government? Like, what would you say is a great starting point?
Do whatever you like. Okay. I remember this as advice in when I was thinking of going to law school in high school, college, and one teacher said to me, "You should just take whatever courses you like. Like, don't think about should it be math, should it be science, what should it be? Do whatever you like because you will be the best at that."
Right.
Okay. So do the stuff you like. And here, like you people should get involved in whatever interests them, okay? Because they will get the most delight out of it. They'll have the most fun doing it. It'll be the most productive. If there's something that you would like to do that we don't do now, just let me know because you will be the chair of that committee and we will get it going, okay? We've done it we had Shakespeare Company for a while and, the community gardens, the bike share, the farmers market, like you go through all of them now. It all started with a couple volunteers that came to us and said, "Hey, we'd like to have this happen." And we said, "Great idea. Let's go. What do you need? What do we need to help?"
Follow your passion project.
Do what you like. Yeah, do something you like. Or if you see something that needs to get fixed and it's really bothering you, get a committee together. Let's go fix it.
Right.
Let's go do what it is.
Okay.
Playground in Night Park got built that way. The West Side, we have a great group that's like getting involved again in making improvements on the West Side. I met with them last Saturday before, where they were doing plantings and talked to them all. And, 15 years ago, we had a really active group on the West Side that made and I was pointing out to them all the things that were the changes that were made then. And now they're like doing the next layer of changes.
Right.
But that's what it's all about. We can, the leadership can help steer the ship a little bit, but it only gets done with volunteers.
Right.
Like it only gets done.
Right. Changes are made by the people for the people.
And listen, I've been saying this every speech for the last year. Whenever I talk to anybody at the end, that typing on a keyboard is not participating in your community.
No.
You need to get up and go do something. You may think with the other 20 people that you're arguing back and forth on Facebook about that you're getting something done,
counterproductive,
but you ain't.
Right.
Okay, nothing's changing.
Right.
You need to get up and do something.
Yep. What would you say, looking back over the past 2 decades, that you are most proud that you've been able to bring to town, or a major change or a few changes? I know you've done a lot in the past 20 years.
Well, we've done there's been a lot we've done in neighborhoods with housing and, we've obviously our downtown we're really known for, and the business community. I'll give you the biggest compliment that I've ever got is residents would say, when I used to be here and tell people I'm from Collingswood, they would say, oh, how about that? Oh, okay. And then now when I tell them I'm from Collingswood, people go, oh my gosh, we were just there for dinner, or it's hopping, or this is happening. The way it's made people feel is, I think, it's justified by what the town really is, and we've been able to really highlight the great parts of it. We're blessed with great bones. We have a great bones of a downtown, and I always joke that if in the game Sim City, right? You build the city. Well, like if you built it the way Collingswood's built, you get all kinds of bonus points. Like you got a good downtown, denser housing, a little more spread out housing. Like it's ding, ding, ding. You win. You win all kinds of stuff. We have great bones.
Yeah.
But the people and the investment of the people is what really like changes it all. What really, God, 20 years ago, we had groups of people that didn't like the way Haddon Avenue looked, right? So they would go do 2 or 3 buildings every year and go redo the facades, okay? Like the old Amish barn raising. Like they would go and not like it, go talk to the owner, have them pay supplies, and then come out on a weekend and rip off the old siding and restore the clapboard and paint the place. Like, yeah.
Like real sweat equity.
Yeah. Crazy people. Like nuts. It's just nuts to go out and do that on somebody else's house that you don't own. Yeah. That's crazy.
And where else are they doing that? I mean, that's like unheard of.
It's great, crazy people. Like it's my favorite kind of crazy. Like, but it is. It's getting so invested in it. And that had ripple effects. Like they changed a bunch of buildings, but then the building that was next door that looked awful, that guy now went, oh man, we got to do something. If I want to rent this out, look at how it looks next door. So they improved their properties.
Wow.
Yeah.
People just really care.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And they're crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
A good crazy.
Yeah.
As far as what's on the horizon and things to come, is there anything that you could share with our listeners about maybe exciting things and changes that are happening in the community?
Well, there's a lot of things. We continue to work to try to get more housing that's oriented to our business districts. The water tower, there's some people talking to us. I'd love to get the old Sun Bank, Ocean Bank, something done there, something done proportionate, how it should be on that site. But we continue to work to try to improve the housing all around the downtowns, because I think for the next 10, 20 years, like that, we're going to go through another cycle of struggles there, because the internet just, is crushing all kinds of retail. They're crushing Macy's. They're going to be crushing like our little downtowns. That's a big deal. We're working to try to come up with funding sources and move forward on kind of rec facilities and arts facilities. We're doing this massive survey, public interaction process that's been really informative, but trying to make use of our, tiny little town to, I think there are folks that would love to have, massive sports fields and pickleball courts and like everything you can imagine. Trouble is we don't have a lot of dirt for that. So we're going to try to work on maximizing what we can do for that. And really just kind of chasing down the biggest, one of the things I've learned in all this is you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. If you had told me there'd be pandemic and then trash, I couldn't get trash picked up for a while, because companies wouldn't take our money to go do it. Like, so you never know what's coming down the pike.
Right.
Yeah, we're going through a real resurgence of people getting involved. Like there's a lot of new groups that have started.
Right.
And people are starting to come out more and do some things. So that's all incredible positive for what's coming next.
Right.
The Juneteenth festival we just did, right? The West Side group I talked about, like new stuff.
Exciting.
Like we need new
energy,
you
new
keep
blood.
having new stuff going on. Yeah. Farmers market's what, 20 now?
Right.
20 years old?
Yeah.
It's great. It's the best, but
things evolve.
It'll, we need new stuff. We need new stuff all the time.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you have a full plate.
Yeah, a couple things.
Thanks so much for coming on our show. I think it's going to be really exciting for our readers and listeners to be able to delve a little deeper and hear about you. And for those who are new and a lot of the pandemic, people who have come into the community, I think it'll be awesome to learn more about the history of Collingswood and how it came to be the cool town that it is today.
Thank you. Thanks. And thanks for your magazine helping to let everybody learn a little bit about everybody in town. A little bit more. We really appreciate it. It's really nice. It's a nice touch.
I appreciate that. Our goal is to always make neighbors feel more connected through what makes us human. So keep reading.
You got it. You got it.